What's up, everybody? Today we are looking at your favorite award giver's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the top 5 worst 5, top 5 most surprisingly good, and top 5 most disappointing of 2015. So that's 4 different categories, and I'll try to explain them better as we go on for those who are not familiar with this. But there's no fluff, no skits, no nonsense, just straight lists, straight reasons, and that's about it. I did this last year for 2014, and a lot of people have asked me to do it for this year, so without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, numero 5 for the most surprisingly good figure is KFC's Transistor. Is he great? No way. However, and when I say Transistor, I'm talking about the metallic finish one, not that plain red one. There is something about this figure that is extremely striking, especially on a shelf, and from what I was used to with KFC, this was a huge surprise to me. There's plenty of other figures that have come out this year that have been far superior to this, don't get me wrong. But this took me back a bit. I was surprised at just how good this is in comparison to their previous releases. Number 4 is War Dog. Bad Cube is just not my favorite third-party company in the world. This price is pretty steep. The kibble was very present, and the transformation was an absolute nightmare. I was ready to rip into this thing. I was ready to tear this thing apart when I reviewed him. But when I got to that final step where I clicked in that last thing or tabbed in that last component of the transformation, I fell in love with him. Like, he has a presence, he looks good, it's a bit of a modern uptake, it's not very faithful to the cartoon per se, but it looks good, and it looks kind of more reminiscent of who the character is than what the character looked like, if that made sense. My number 3 for the most surprisingly good figure of the year is Shinebug, or whatever his name is, the Toy World Goldbug. And it's not that I expected this figure to be trash, it's just Toy World has a reputation, and their reputation is kind of middle of the road. You know, they're not doing anything fantastic, and they're not doing anything really poorly either. They're just doing average sort of releases. Like, I'm okay with average releases for a lot of the characters that they're doing. I don't need a picture perfect Freeway or whatever. You know, I need something in the ballpark. So I wasn't expecting this figure to be as much fun as he is, and this figure is a lot of fun. The transformation is outstanding. There's so many moving components and levels of intricacy and complexity that are also intuitive that I just don't expect from this company. So I put this as number 3. Numero 2 is the Rhino wave that I have represented here with the Build-A-Figure of Rhino of the Marvel Legends, the Spider-Man Marvel Legends this year. Like, they really knocked this particular wave out of the park. The Kraven, the Venom, the Spider-Man, the Pizza Spider. I mean, like, there were so many good figures in this wave. And then the Build-A-Figure himself was one of the best Build-A-Figures I've seen from Hasbro in a long time. Like, it was a really solid release from this company and from this line. So I must say, this whole wave is number 2 for my most surprisingly good for 2015. And my number 1 choice for the most surprisingly good figure of the year is Unique Toys. I believe it was Unique Toys or DX9. I can't keep the two companies straight. Orden. The reason why I say it is surprisingly good is because, like, after the release of Troll, which I loved, I just felt like I kept getting hit over the head with mediocrity from their release after release after release. It just felt like the figures kept getting lazier and weaker and less planned and less thought out. So it just made me very uncomfortable about the end result. And I was happy to see that the end result is pretty stable. Does it have its issues? Absolutely. Best figure of the year? Not a chance. But it's a pretty good combiner, and all the things that you really need to make a good combiner are present here. So he's my number 1. And there they are all together. These are the figures that really surprised me for a number of different reasons, either from previous releases or from company's reputation or from previous experience dealing with the company or the lines. These are the figures that made me say, wow, this company or these companies in particular are really trying to make a conscious effort to improve what they're doing and improve what they're releasing. So I tip my hat to everyone involved with the design, production, and release of these particular figures. All right, and then for the most disappointing figures of the year is the Thanos wave. Now, not necessarily Thanos. He was actually kind of okay, but the wave itself was just kind of lackluster. It had a lot of the paint issues that I'm always talking about with Marvel Legends stuff. It had loose joint issues. It had reuse of mold issues. There's all the negativity, all of the problems that I tend to have with the Marvel Legend were definitely evident in this wave. And it was Thanos, and it was Avengers, which was a big movie event of the year, so I was just expecting a little bit more. So this would be my number 5 for most disappointing wave of the year. Number 4, Warbitron's nose cone. And it's not that he's a terrible figure. It's just coming right off of the strength of their Afterburner. I was really, or whatever one, the bike, the first release, which is one of the best figures of the year. I was really expecting a lot more from this figure. And when he got in hand, I was like, here we are, back to where I thought we'd be, which was unfortunate. And it's not that it's a bad place. It's a fine place. It's just that their first release was such an improvement from what I'm used to seeing with this company that I expected more from their follow-up release. Number 3 was this Crasher for most disappointing figure of the year. And it's just, I think I wanted this to be better than I already knew it was going to be. It's just that the Crasher character doesn't really come through in this mold. The head sculpt is off. It's trying to put it's not quite a square peg into a circular hole. It's more like a oval into a circular hole. You know, it's like it almost works, but not quite. And I'm a big Crasher fan. It's probably the only GoBot I ever really liked a lot as a kid from watching the cartoons and stuff. So I really wanted this figure to work out for me, and it just doesn't feel right in the end. Number 2 is Fans Project's Skull Cruncher. And Fans Project and I, we've had our ups and downs. You know, like we still text each other once in a while. We'll still get coffee every once in a while, but we're no longer hanging out every day like we used to. But with that being said, I've always kept their headmasters in pretty high regard, and I've always really looked forward to their Function X, you know, kind of line. And this one just didn't seem up to par, not only with their previous releases, which is probably what hurt the most, but with today's standard. It just felt like it was left behind. So this is one of the most disappointing figures to me, and I think the amount of time that we had to wait in order to get this figure certainly didn't help its cause. And the most disappointing figure of the year to me is the First Order Stormtrooper. And it's mainly because of them elbows. Like the articulation sucks. And it's not just that. It's that mixed with the fact that their first Stormtrooper was so good. Like one of the best 6-inch figures I've ever seen Hasbro do. It's so good. And it shouldn't have required an awful lot of effort nor work to get this one to that standard. So I don't understand why it kind of slipped through the cracks. In this mold, for the next foreseeable future, 3 years a movie? So we got 3 and then six more years that we'll probably be seeing First Order Troopers and renditions of First Order Troopers, and they're probably all going to be based on this mold. So this mold is setting the precedent for what's to come. Many, many, many different paint schemes. Many, many, many different duo sets. All that stuff is coming. And it's more than likely all going to come from this mold. And this mold is just not the best unit to work from a ground zero perspective. So there they are. And like I said, it's not as though this is the top 5 worst figures of the year. You know, most of them are still kind of good in some regard, or some of them are pretty good. It's just that they were disappointments. They were disappointments for a number of reasons, whether it be the hype, or the anticipation, or the experience, or blah, blah, blah. There was some reason why the standard was set at a certain level, and these figures failed to deliver on those standards. Some of those standards the companies are responsible for. Some of those standards we're responsible for as collectors. So it's not totally their fault. The Crasher being a good example of that. But for whatever reason, they fell short of my expectations. Top 5 worst figures of the year. Number 5 is MP Trax. And I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, and I'm sorry. Just know that it's not a personal attack on you. It's just my feelings on the toy. This one it's not that it's a terrible toy. It's just that the level of professionalism I expect from this company, it's not delivered here in any real way, shape, or form. The playability of this figure is just not there, and it feels light for what it is, and it feels extremely hollow, in part because it is fairly hollow. And the huge eyesore there in the backpack, I mean, The fact that it's hard to manipulate it without stuff coming untabbed, whether it be this backpack, which the reason why it's unlocked right now actually is because I was manipulating the shoulders to try to get a pose, and it's hard to manipulate the shoulders without it popping out of some place. It's just not what I want. That mixed in with a ratchet that ain't right, and it just bothers me. And also the face sculpt is off. There's just so many things wrong with this for it to be the standard. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the problem, is that Takara Tomy Masterpiece is the standard for the best made G1 represented transforming figure. It's the standard. It's the end all be all. And this figure, while not terrible, falls so far from where that standard was to me that I have to put him at number 5, or I'm not being honest with myself. Number 4, Fans Projects Volar, their swoop. And he's just a mess. The design is a mess. The wings don't look good. It's really difficult to make to make Swoop's wings look bad, but somehow Fans Project found a way. The joints are just like, they feel Fisher-Pricey to me. Like, these are ratcheted here, but the whole thing is just a wiggle wobble bit of business. I had a hard time actually getting him to stand. He doesn't even sit on my proper shelves with the rest of my figures. I have him upstairs in my office because I just don't know even if I'm going to keep him. And I love the Dinobots, and Fans Project was such a amazing company in my mind not too long ago. So it's just really sad to see this from them. Not the end I would have wished for, lad. But yeah, this figure would be my number 4. Number 3, SH Figuarts Injustice Batman. Once again, like I reviewed this guy, and there's just so many problems I have, be it the cape or the head sculpt or the way the head kind of moves, the accessories, the way he holds the accessories. There's just so much that I don't care for with this figure, and I love SH Figuarts, I really do, and I love Batman, so I thought that this was going to be like the match made in heaven, and I think the fact that it wasn't that. Oh, it just I look at that. I mean, that's how far he can look up. Do you know what I mean? It's such a bummer. Once again, it's good materials. It's good paint application and all that kind of stuff. There's thought into this thing. There's just unfortunately not a thought in it that's thought out enough to make it good, which is really unfortunate. And it's the same type of thing with the tracks. And even with the Fans Project, to be fair, that they're from companies with such stellar reputations that it's really disheartening. Numero dos, Tiger Shark, Marvel Legends. And if you watch my review of this, I lose my mind a little bit when I start talking about the paint. You guys know I love paint. I love paint application on a figure. I'm a sucker for it when it's done well. I give things a pass that maybe I shouldn't when they're done well. But when there's mistakes, I kind of jump on it. It's one of my pet peeves. This is, without a doubt, the worst painted figure I have ever seen in my life, at least in my adult life. The decisions that are made here are so horrendous. I'm almost shocked at how bad it is. And I am well aware of the shortcuts that a Marvel Legend will take on paint, but this is so bad that I'm pretty much just shocked. And my number 1, I'm sure didn't come as a surprise to most. Transformers Combiner Wars Menasor. The Stunticons are my favorite Transformer characters. They're the only characters that I have TF animated representations of. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a fan of the Stunticons. I have a figure focused collection of the Stunticons. And while these are kind of okay individually for Hasbro standards, like they're kind of fine. And I'm doing this while I'm saying that, Menasor is such a nightmare. Like, I refuse to put them together for this review. I refused. Absolutely not. I can't do it again. But it ends up, it's not too long after you put him in combine mode that he ends up looking somewhat like this anyway. Because of the instability, because of the general sloppiness, messiness, lack of articulation, especially with no ankle rocker on the whole Combiner Wars line, but specifically with this one, the weird proportions, the way that the hips are constructed, the tab-in method from the pelvis piece into the thighs, the whole thing is just piss poor. So this is my number one worst figure of the year, Hasbro's Combiner Wars Menasor. So there they are. And I got to be honest, like I feel bad putting Trax, Volar, and even the Batman there with the Tiger Shark and the Combiner Wars, but like I'm kind of comparing them. What you have to understand is that I'm kind of comparing them to their own thing, right? Like I can't compare Masterpiece Trax to a $15 deluxe, like they shouldn't be compared. I'm comparing them within their respective lines. So this Batman, in comparison with the other SH Figuarts figures, feels that far inferior, where he would be a bad figure. Same with Trax, same with Volar. Whereas Tiger Shark, it's the same thing, just within the Marvel Legends. Like this is terrible by Marvel Legends standard. Don't even compare it to an SH Figuarts. That would be absurd. Same thing kind of goes for this stuff. And this stuff, it's just within its respective bracket, it's that much of a failure. Real quick, this is a new little segment. I don't think I did one last year. If I did, forgive me. But I think it's a new segment. I'm doing an honorable mention of the year. This is my honorable mention of the year, this SH Figuarts Clone Trooper. And the reason why he's my honorable mention is because he's perfect. He's absolutely perfect. I really don't have one complaint whatsoever with this figure. The only complaint I have is regarding the accessories. But in regards to this figure, he is drop dead gorgeous. Picture perfect. I just didn't put him in my list because I've got him so recently that I'm afraid I'm caught up in the hype of The Force Awakens and everything, and I'm not giving other things a fair shake, so I'm removing him from the competition. I just want to mention that this isn't the only SH Figuarts Star Wars unit I have, and it's definitely not my favorite Star Wars character, nor is it from my favorite Star Wars era, but I had to say this figure is executed perfectly. Alright, the moment we've all been waiting for, the top 5 figures of the year. Now, I went back and forth between this guy and Boba Fett from Play Arts Kai for like 15 minutes, and I'm going to go with this guy in the end. It's just because of, like, the sculpt is great, the paint is great, the articulation is great, the wings have like, this guy's shelf presence is unparalleled. Like, he makes a statement. It's just a really solid piece from materials to articulation, to sculpt, to paint, to mold, to cast, to character, to presence, to everything. Like, it's just a really well done, well executed figure, and I love it. I love this guy. It's not that he's so much better than a lot of other figures that came out this year. It's not that. It's just that everything is kind of done well. Like, the transformation is intuitive, and it's also fun. There's not a stress mark. It's a huge improvement on an already well-established company. And it's a really well executed figure from sculpt to mold. Now, I know that my buddy Andrew has shoulder issues, but like, I'm okay with that. Is it the best? No. Is it hindered? Absolutely. But it's not terrible. And it was only 2 releases later from this company that we realized how bad it could actually get. So I'm okay with this guy in the articulation department. But it's just that there's so many things done right, and the fact that we went from Warbotron, which the Bruticus one, which I love, and I love him, but it's not just that; it's that it improved upon that, and one of the main ways it did that was the stress mark issue, which kind of plagued Warbotron Bruticus from start to finish, and it was just gone here. Like it was Kaiser Sose gone, like it had disappeared, like that. Whew, it was gone. And that's like a major improvement, and this guy just kind of works in all regards. It's hard for me to find a real criticism of him other than the shoulder articulation, and it doesn't bother me. So I have to say this is one of the most solid purchases I've made of the year. Number 3, Warbotron Bruticus. Not without his flaws, right? We've talked about stress marks. We've talked about all those sorts of issues. However, this is one of those things where, like, the way I've imagined Bruticus in my head is this guy. I've never, and I don't know if I've ever had that experience before in either first party or third party. It's more than the character. It's more than the likeness. It's like the soul of it, It's like how you want Bruticus to look. I think this thing nailed it. The translucent ankles and all that have been a problem for some. They haven't been a problem for me. So all I can go off of is my experience. And my experience has been a positive experience. So this is definitely my number 3 choice. And the only reason why it's not my number 1 is because I am very much aware of the flaws and of the other criticisms that other people have had. So I take those things into account, but from my personal experience, like I've had this guy, I'll put it this way, I haven't had a third party nor first party combiner that looked as good as this and could achieve the poses that this guy is capable of achieving. Just hasn't happened. So this is my number 3 list, and a very massive and impressive piece in my collection. Number 2, Harley and Joker from the SH Figuarts Injustice line. Now, some people don't like this representation of Harley, and that's fine, but that's not what we're really what we're talking about here. If you don't like the design choice, that's one thing, but how that design choice is carried out here is something totally different. This figure, both of these figures work on all levels, like the sculpts, the molds, the paints, the articulation, the materials, the accessories. Like, I mean, I think I drooled a little bit talking about this little laminated Joker card. I mean, there's so much thoughtfulness, there's so much attention to detail, there's so much care put into both of these figures, which is one of the reasons why Batman was such a bummer, but it's also the reason why these two are on the top 5 greatest figures of the year. And my number 1, Fans Toys Grenadier. And here's what's interesting, okay? So this guy doesn't have the shelf presence that, say, the Hawkman does, or the Warbitron Bruticus does, or even Orden, or a lot of these other pieces. Even, you know, Trax from a certain angle, right? But it's just that for a low-key character, everything is done right here. Everything that you want in a transforming toy is done right. Like, it has weight, it has die-cast, it has chrome, it has paint, it has articulation, it has a fun transformation, it has a G1 likeness that you can fall in love with. Like, everything that you want from a third-party toy is in this toy. Is it perfect? No. But the things that are done right are done so right that I have to say he's my favorite toy of the year. And those are my top choices for the year. Those are the figures that I've bought, and it doesn't mean that they're the best in the sense of they are the best figure. They're just my personal favorites. They're what works for me. They are my favorite additions to my collection for one reason or another. And I can say that I think if you were to purchase any of these, you'd be pretty happy with your purchase. So that's what I'm going off of. So here they all are. For one reason or another, you know, these figures have made a big impact on me through the course of the year, and for some for better and some for worse. But you know, it's been a good year. 2015 has been a good year. Thanks to everybody that's subscribed or commented or liked the Facebook page and stuff, and you know, chit-chatted with me a bit and all that kind of stuff. I appreciate hearing from you guys. I like hearing from you guys, and it's been a pretty good time. Look, don't argue with me about this stuff, okay? I'm not interested really in arguing about it, and it's just my opinion. I'd be much more interested in hearing your opinion about these 5 categories for the year than arguing with my opinion, right? Because I'm not going to change your opinion, and you're not going to change mine, so I'd be much more interested in hearing yours. Other than that, tomorrow's burn, so I hope you guys are excited about that. There's a lot of work that went into it, and I'm pretty excited to put it out, and hope you guys have found the Christmas present I left for you. I'm shooting this a bit before all that, so I hope that is all going according to plan. And it's been a good year, and I don't plan on stopping, so we'll do this again next year, and I'll continue with more videos next year, and I think we're going to have a new intro and new music and new stuff. So to everyone who's been with me, and you know, I love you guys, and I hope I've helped, you know, influence some of your decisions, or at least, you know, created some discussion points to have amongst your friends or whatever, because it's supposed to be a community, right? That's what this thing of ours is supposed to be. So when I get out of here for the last video of 2015, I'm gonna leave you with one of my phrases and one of my buddy Oscar's phrases, and that's please collect responsibly and please respect collectively. All right, it's a community. Let's act like one. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.